Alrighty, so we are on week 9, and this week 9 generally is my goal is always to publish earlier, but as you all know, with the Canvas attacks that happened, everything has been pushed back a little bit. And I know by the time some of you get here, this has already been discussed, and make sure you roll up and look at the Canvas announcement. Matter of fact, there's probably going to be one more from me by the time some of you reach this final content. But let's just give you what we're going to do for this final content and then look for any adjustments with messages around due dates. But I would say to you, if you're getting caught up, definitely work as much as you can, even with the extended due dates, so you're not in a position of trying just your hardest to get across that finish line. Okay, so I'm going to have this first video is actually going to go over the final requirements, your final deploy of your project. And then there'll be another video that talks about actually how you need to get started and what you need to do for attendance. Okay, so we're going to take your site, which in this case is most likely a 3-page site, but I had actually noticed already a few of you actually ended up having one additional page. I'm not sure where that happened, but it's okay. But what you're going to do here is you're going to end up with a 5-page professional site system. And you'll see what I mean by that in a minute. But in this case, we're going to do the final engineering task. Okay. So what you want to do here is not do the work yet. You want to watch and to go over what you're going to need to do for that final project, and then watch the video here for how to actually start the setup, because we're going to be moving, right? So you'll watch that one. But this first one is just to get you thinking about what you're going to need to do and understanding a requirement. So again, don't do the work yet, because there'll be commits that you'll make along the way for the actual project. Okay, so here is the link. So in this case, we're going to go and we're going to do a site architecture, and you'll see what I mean by that in a minute. We're going to build some subpages, and you'll do a little more grid work for the final one. Okay. So now, what does this mean, a 5-page site system? Okay, so we're going to be focusing on giving you a way to create subpages. Okay, subpages are really important because our menu generally should be limited to a certain amount. Matter of fact, this is my final site that you'll see me go over today. So you will see how we implement these subpages here in a minute, and how you can create a new class. You will create a new class to show the user where they're at as far as the navigation on your site. Okay, so as before, right, no magic code, only use code we've used so far. Ooh, I got to fix that. Right, make sure in this case you're going to use figure. You're going to add, make sure you'll add some images, and you use figure and fig caption for that, and background image for decorative heroes are allowed, but limit their use. Okay, and then every page must be responsive, no horizontal scrolling, and we've learned how to handle that so far. So we're going to have a total of 5 pages. Okay, so at this point, depending on, you, like I said before, some of you may have added an extra page, but we're going to do 2 new subpages, okay, linked from your existing navigation, right? This provides deep dives into the topics mentioned on your main pages. So let me actually show you this. So for me, now I didn't put any subpages linked off of my home. All of these were actually either just rollovers or links to external sites. Now, if you end up using creating a new page, you'll have to note that in the way that we're going to handle the navigation. So let me show you this in actually the way I implemented, and kind of the way I recommend you do it. So I have, in this case, 3 menu items. Now and we know that these are links. We know these go to pages, okay? So when I go to one of my menu links, or my main links in my navigation, and I scroll down, I will see, and you will end up building through this process, a new link. And for me, I've noted the difference here in my CSS between a link that is going to be in site or a subpage. Okay, so let me go ahead and click on this. So this moves to a new page I've created called mobility. Now, the important things about building new pages is that it's consistent across your entire site. I have my nav. Now, this is the part that's different within the page, and we'll go over some of this in a minute, but I have a footer, okay? So in this case, you can also see because I clicked on a link that was within the workout topic. So for me, mobility and longevity is a natural subtopic within workouts. Okay, that's why even though this is a mobility page, it's within the topic or it's a deep dive. That's what that meant as far as a deep dive into that concept. Okay, so the two new pages you're creating are not part of your menu. They are sub pages that are linked from your existing menu. Now, if you were someone who actually had another menu item here, you could either continue to use that, that's fine, or you could take one of your menu items and make it a sub page if it made sense. Okay, so let me show you. So I did that for that one. So if I click back on workouts, then it takes me back to the main, what I would call menu pages. Now, these are all just HTMLs. It's really the way we're talking about them that make a difference. So I did the same for my VO2 max. Okay, so in here, I put a longevity link. That is a sub page so that when I go to it, stays within the topic of VO2 max, but discusses the idea of longevity as it relates to the topic of VO2 max. So I want to give you that idea because in this case, this is how you want to do this. So now let's talk about the details of what this looks like. Every page must include your primary header and your wrapper and your system footer. This is what I was talking about before, where you now have a system, right? A design that you will then implement across your pages. So you keep that in place when you're doing these sub pages, okay? Now, the other thing I've added here, and this is what I was showing, but now I want you to actually have some more content, is you must manually update and create something like an active page class for each HTML file so that the navigation correctly highlights which page the user is currently viewing. Now, really, all this means is you just have to come up with what you're going to use, right? So in this case, if I right click and I hit inspect, I will actually see that I have now a class in there. Okay. And that class, that active, is what I would use whenever I'm on either the main page or my menu page or a sub page. Okay. So that's what that means for that. Okay. Every page needs a unique title, right? So if you don't remember, you go back to your HTML, you go up into your head section, you add a unique title, okay? So make sure that's there. And then what you're going to do here, and actually this is going to help you. You've already by now done your attendance and you've already done some work behind this, but just document like the why behind your topics of your subpages. How do they relate to your existing pages, right? And then you'll have a commit. Again, don't do the work yet. Just watch this and because this will give you a chance to both do some of the work to get here, but also to ask any questions. So at least one or two of the new subpages must feature at least a unique section for using CSS Grid. Okay, so this means don't just take the class or selectors that you had before, actually create a new set of them to feature something. Okay, and I'll show you in a minute something on your site, like a feature block, a comparison. For me, I did a 3-column gallery, right? So you want to do something new around this grid because the more experience you get with them, the better. Now, when you're doing this, we're keeping that same style we learned with Kevin, which is a nested media query to ensure all grids stack vertically on mobile. Okay, so we learned about doing 2, right? I'm going to do 3, as long as you have examples that use a new CSS, a unique section using these. So what this means is you're styling this unique to the part of this page that you want to style differently. You're just using grid. So for me, when I come down, I think it's not on this one, I believe. If I come down to here, I believe it is on, oh, actually, no, I think it was here. So if I go to flexibility, yeah. So this is actually what I did, is I ended up doing that 3-column. Okay. And you can definitely just go off of what Kevin told us about setting up grids. But also, and I like to do this, and should be doing this as well, when I change the resolution this way, right? I can see that those get stacked on each other so that therefore using the grid, using the media queries to adjust the page based on the viewport, right? So okay, so using nested queries, make sure you get that done. You have a commit. Okay, so now we're going to use Fig and Fig captions, right? So if implement at least 2 examples of figure and Fig caption across your site, because some of us took the images, the big hero images during the week that we had. I think it was last week that you did hero images and converted them. So make sure you have at least 2 of these on your entire site. Okay, I don't care where you put them. It's really up to you. Right now, these images can be of course, generated using Gen AI or something. I'll show you how I did it. Make sure you use some CSS to give your Fig caption a distinct style, all right? And then do commit. So what I ended up doing here is actually I used this image. I liked this because it talked about mobility. I liked it kind of a nice, more technical image. You can see I styled mine. Remember, all these images need to be responsive. So that's an important part as well, right? So that when you change the page, the images are responsive, okay? That is just part of how we do images at this point. All right, so the last requirement is that to implement a second hero style, right? Specify for one of the sub pages. Okay, so pick one of your sub pages and you're going to implement a new hero style. Now, what does this mean? You still almost use everything we used on the heroes. You just might make it, as in this case, you'll see mine, maybe a little more compact or a thinner height or a different background treatment, something different than what we used before to help users get the content faster. Okay, so here's what I ended up doing, and I already showed you this, is on my mobility page, which is a sub page on my workouts. I ended up changing this to be a smaller hero image, a hero image for me, and the general go edge to edge, right? And also I focused it a little more on how I wanted it to. So when it's smaller, you see the whole image. My specific desire was that I use those rules to actually say how I wanted that background image to show up. Okay. Okay, so that's your new hero image. Make sure all your pages validate, 0 errors, and then you can come down through here and see what the project itself. Now, what I will do is on your final share out, I'll go over this so what I will do is grade your work related to these requirements, but you'll also have a discussion, okay, that you'll do for the final share out. Okay, so this will be the first video. Again, don't do the work yet. Now what you'll do, and I'll stop this one and create a shorter one that just goes over what you need to do to prepare to do the share out. All right.